Okay, now it's time that we actually go learn to interpret the information from that historical component, one of the more interesting components of the Ichimoku system. So remember, the Chikou line is comparing today's price to that price of 26 days ago, and that gives us some interesting pieces of information. So let's look at those pieces that we're going to be looking for. Remember, if Chikou's above the candles from 26 days ago, we are bullish. If we're below the candles, we are bearish. If the Chikou is above the cloud, it's bullish. If it's below the cloud, it's bearish. And if the Chikou is running into the candles, it's consolidation. If Chikou is running into the cloud, it is consolidation. So 6 signals that we're looking for. Kind of get that punch list in front of you, and let's get over into our charting software and go back in time and start interpreting this information. So now my plan was to come over here to Trade Navigator and to do this. So I've come back to the exact same spot. Now here's what I've got to do. I'm going to take the Tenkan and the Kijun lines off, but I'm going to leave the cloud. And the reason is because this Chikou line, remember, the Chikou line is simply today's price shifted backwards, 26 periods. And the signals that we get with Chikou are specifically tied to the cloud and to the candles. Okay, so starting off here, by the way, this is the lagging indication. This is always going to be the last signal you get, and it will always be late. Every time it will be a late signal. So don't anticipate a leading indication from this line. Every time it will be tardy, and you should anticipate that. All right, so what you need to notice here is we're below the clouds, so that's bearish. Or sorry, we're below the candles, so that's bearish, but we're above the clouds. So this is very much neutral right now. And I'll run this forward fairly quickly as well because we can see these signals without wasting a lot of time going candle by candle. In fact, I'll even speed it up here. Not sure how well that'll work for the webinar, but we'll speed it up. All right, so as I see some signals here, I'm going to stop it and point them out. We're breaking below the clouds. Now, Chikou broke below the clouds, but look what's happened with Chikou. Chikou found support at the cloud. Now, remember, when we were just looking at the cloud signal without Chikou and without the moving averages, remember we had this support that seemed to show up out of nowhere? We looked back and we found the support in the cloud. Well, look, that's where Chikou was interacting. So Chikou was actually telling us we're getting some support here. Pay attention. Boom. That's a powerful signal. All right, let's move this thing forward a little bit. This particular one, because we've now traded it twice in the last 15 minutes, we know it breaks back bullish here. We got into, I believe, sideways movement. Now stop. Okay, 2 things I want to point out. The price action is in the cloud. Chikou is in the cloud and the price. If you go back to our little thing here, when Chikou is running into candles and running into the cloud, what is it telling us? Consolidation. Okay, so come back over here. What happened? Chikou is in the middle of the cloud and it's middle of the price. We're consolidating. So even without interpreting the cloud, which we had already anticipated, just the cloud itself, hey, we might get consolidation here. Chikou is telling us there's consolidation happening. And sure enough, what happens? Moving it forward, we get into like a month or month and a half worth of consolidation. That's a pretty powerful signal. That is pretty powerful. Okay, now watch what happens. This is the trend in the clear. Okay, you heard me talk about this in the preview. We've got the lines moving up. We've broken above all the consolidation. Chikou's moving up. The candles are in the clear. There's really not a whole lot to hold them back moving forward through here. So let's move it forward and let's see how much there was to hold them back. We just traded this, and ironically, I've already forgotten. This is where we got into pretty good bullish trend, isn't it? So you see what happened is Chikou's in the clear, the candle's in the clear, the cloud's in the clear. We're going forward. Everything is good. Now watch what's going to happen up here as this trade starts to slow down. As we get into that head and shoulders, Chikou's going to come over, and it's going to get stuck in the candles. Just watch what's going to happen here. Okay, as we start to get stuck in the candles, that's where the consolidation is happening. Boom, there it is. Okay, so pause. You see, we were in the clear. See, as we start to pull the signals together, you see Chikou was in the clear for that trend. The cloud was in the clear for the trend. The candles were in the clear for the trend. Then, as we started getting consolidation warnings from the clouds and Chikou's getting closer and closer to the candles, boom, we're in the candles. Chikou's consolidating. The cloud warned us of a consolidation. And since we've been through this twice in the last 10 minutes, we know that a head and shoulders is about to shape up. That's a pretty good forecasting signal. Okay, this is pretty cool. Now let's continue, and this is that's the head and shoulders. This is where we break bearish, but we find support in the cloud. Okay, so we'll let that thing run down here. Boom, we're hitting Chikou B. Now watch what's going to happen right here. Okay, we didn't know this when the cloud was here. We couldn't see. All we saw was the break below the cloud, and we thought, oh, this thing is going bearish, right? But look at where Chikou was. Chikou's coming into the cloud, and that cloud's providing support. So there's a warning that, hey, maybe the trend is not in the clear, and we need to be careful. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So all that consolidation that head faked us when we were just looking at the cloud, Chikou was actually giving us a lot of perspective that consolidation was coming. And, of course, now that we've looked at the moving averages, we know that there was perspective there as well. Okay, now here, this is a genuine fake signal. This is a truly fake signal. Because what happened is Chikou said we were going bearish. The candles said we were going bearish. The clouds said we were going bearish. We broke below support. Everything about that said we were going bearish, and we did not continue. The only signal that suggested otherwise was the fact that we had support right here. Everything else on that picture was bearish. And so that is a genuine fake signal that we got. This happens in a sideways move, but I think out of all the signals we've had kind of pulling these together, that's only one really bad signal that we got, that this was not a good solid bearish break. Okay, so we happen to know that we got back into consolidation, and watch what happens with Chikou here as we get into consolidation. Look at how Chikou's just stuck. I mean, it's stuck in the clouds. It's stuck in the price action. The price tries to break out, but Chikou's stuck over here in the clouds. And even though we're above the clouds over here and we're trying to break out, Chikou's just kind of lagging along back here in the middle of the clouds, stuck. That's a really powerful signal. Now, watch what's happening here. Stop. Okay. So remember when we were getting above the clouds, we were saying, well, maybe there's going to be some bullishness here. Remember that? But, because remember the big blue cloud was building, and we were thinking, well, we're above the clouds, big blue cloud, maybe some bullishness. When we looked at the moving average portion of this, the Tenkan in the Kijun, we were very much in the middle of the price action. Now that you see the Chikou, sorry, I moved it forward. Now that you see the Chikou, you also see how Chikou was stuck in here. So we knew, based on the other signals, that even though we were above the clouds, this was sideways movement. All right, so that's how this is starting to come together. Now, look at this. Sorry, come back. I got to move this back. I got to show this to you as it happens. Okay, watch this. This is awesome. Okay, so what we did not have, since we'd been whipped and chopped and up to pieces, coming back and forth, coming through the sideways move, what we did not have was a clear signal if this was going to be a bearish trend or not. We actually had a blue cloud. We didn't have that cross yet. We were below the cloud. We had some bearish candles, but now that we've added Chikou on here, Chikou says, I'm getting into the clear. Price is getting clear. We're below the clouds. And boom, there was our big bearish break. So you see how that starts to shape up? Now, we got our hammer that happened down here where the consolidation and the cloud starts to forecast. Remember that consolidation happened all the way up into November. Cloud was forecasting at the beginning of October, and Chikou's just building support here. And if you look left, remember we got support that's being provided by Chikou B way back there. Okay, so we did have, where did we have that big lower break? That comes up a little bit later. Okay, at this point, notice what's happening. We're thinking maybe we'll break bearish here because we're running into the cloud. Remember me talking about that? But when we look at Chikou, you say, nope, Chinkou's stuck. Not Chikou, sorry, Chikou. Chikou's stuck, giving us all sorts of consolidation back here. And so even though we were hoping that maybe we'd break out, based on the cloud. Nope, Chikou's telling us now we're stuck. We're not going anywhere, and we end up moving sideways for 6 or 8 weeks there. And then finally, we get below the clouds. Chikou breaks free. Price action breaks free. Clouds break down, and we've got some bearish trend that's starting to continue as we move into December. Now, here's where we are, real time on this trade. Let's stop this thing. Let's look at this trade real time, and I'm going to call it a night because it's 10 minutes till 8, and I got to teach another class in 30 minutes. So take a look here, real time right now. This is a bearish trend. This is at a glance now, okay? Now we're interpreting everything. We're at a glance. We can look at this and say, I've got a bearish trend. I'm below the clouds. My Chikou A and B are mostly going bearish, where my B is kind of going flat, but primarily going down. My Tenkan and Kijun are going bearish, but you notice that my Kijun has just, as of today, started to go flat a little bit. My Chikou's starting to find some support. Let's look left. Is there reason for that support? Yeah, there's some reason. We've got some data back here. We don't have cloud data per se, though, so I'm not sure that that's the kind of support that I'm overly worried about. There's still plenty of room for this thing to keep going down. Clouds are starting to thicken. I think we may be looking at potential continued bearishness into the middle of January on Aussie CAD, into the beginning of January, as maybe we can get one more leg lower, but somewhere around here or one leg lower, we should start to get some consolidation moving into January. At a glance, that's a lot of information, and I think it's some pretty cool signals.
Okay, so I want to do a quick little update to that whole back trading session that we just went through. The video that you just watched was actually taken from a live teaching that we did back in 2014, and I wanted to update all of that back trading that we just talked about, and I wanted to show you what actually worked out on this Aussie dollar CAD trade. And so I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit. Where we left that last video off, we were actually looking at the beginning of December, and the last words that I said is we're looking at maybe one leg down and then some consolidation. And that's exactly what we had happen. The trade came legging down through here, just a few more pips down. And then what happened, we consolidated, we bounced right back up into the cloud, and you see all this confusion, all this junk. And we got into that one of those consolidations where the trade's just kind of going sideways for a little while. And if I zoom out, you can really see what happened. And you can see how this whole thing just started consolidating, and it got really, really messy for a while here. And so I just thought that was pretty interesting. And I wanted to update that for you guys just so you could kind of see what had happened and see where that whole back trading session ended up. After you fast forward here for several months and you can actually see what really transpired. So that's always a cool exercise. So I hope this has been very beneficial for you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.